Hi, I'm Carol Ahles with the Smoking Arts Guild of America, and today I want to show you some tips for making a lace-edged hem-stitched baby blanket that has been one of the most popular projects I've ever taught. About 20 years ago, I saw a beautiful hand crocheted baby blanket that was made for my sister-in-law Susie in 1942, and that inspired this project, except I wanted to find a way that could be done faster, and if people didn't know how to crochet or weren't able to for other reasons, this will give them an option. Machines now have lots of different versions of this, because this particular stitch can be a buttonhole or blanket stitch also, with different thread, different needles. But what we want to use in the way that we make it look like a pin stitch or a point de Paris this is my favorite stitch pattern of it. It would go forward and back several times and once to the side and back. We want these holes to be the big holes that show. We don't want any hole to show over here. But what this does is when it swings over, it can catch lace, or catch a trim, or catch a hem, or catch an applique. And so it's so useful for us. I would rather not have several swings to the side, because then the thread builds up. We want the hole to show, but not the thread in most cases for this. So we use a very fine thread. This is Madeira 80 weight cotton thread, and that's the ideal thread. But there are other heirloom threads, as long as they're very fine cotton thread. This particular technique I'm going to show you entails cording, and pearl cotton size 5 is what I use for this. We need a foot, and we'll show you how to put the cord in the hole of the foot. A foot that will hold the cord in center needle position so we can cord the stitch. And in this particular case, we're going to use a wing needle because it's on flannel for a blanket, a very good quality flannel. Usually when I cord these stitches, I wouldn't usually use a wing needle. But in this case, the fabric can handle it, and the stitch size will work. So you can use either a large universal like a 120, or if the fabric can handle it, a 100 wing. So this is an example of the technique, and then we'll show you how to put the cord in. But you want excellent quality. It's not worth the time, your time, to do this around all the way around a blanket if you don't have good quality fabric. So this has to be, some of the blanket fabric, the flannel, is just too loosely woven, and it doesn't hold up, and it doesn't keep its shape. So just make sure it's a real good quality flannel. And then I like the look of a Cluny lace. This is not a real heavy Cluny lace, but your heirloom shops will know if you ask for good quality flannel in the Cluny lace. Okay, so when we first, this is where we're going, so you know. This one has a contrasting cord. This is the technique that I show for doing this blanket, because we want sturdiness. So we end up with a fold here. We're stitching through 2 layers. It's corded, which adds dimension, and it can add color and strength. So these blankets, this has been through 4 grandkids and washed, and they just hold up well if you're using good quality materials. The way we're going to start is first just do a fine zigzag If there is a right and wrong side, this would be the Clooney lace face down with the straight edge, the heading, about a 1/2 inch from the edge of the side of the blanket. It doesn't have to be any exact spot as long as it's not the bottom, it's the side. Oh, I forgot to show you something important I wanted to show you. These look so much better if you have a curve on the 4 corners than a squared corner. Babies tend to chew on those square corners and they get out of shape. The blankets just hold up better, keep their shape better, and I think look prettier. So there are rulers that you can use. Just line up the 4 corners and cut the curve, and then you'll have to ease in a little fullness going around that curve, and I use a skewer to push in a little bit of fullness and ease it in. And you don't have to pre-wash the flannel. It barely shrinks, the good quality flannel. But the Clooney, I like to wrap in a bundle. We wrap it around cardboard and then sometimes tie a little ribbon around it. Put it in a sink of hot water overnight because it does shrink. And we don't want the blanket to be cupping after it's washed. But don't hang it over the shower rod to dry. It'll stretch back out. So put it in the sink of hot water, squeeze out in the morning the excess water, and pat it with a towel. And then I just pretty much lay it flat to dry. Just spread it a little bit. Okay, now, back to where we're starting at with the zigzag and that same fine thread and just a regular foot. Leave about a 2-inch tail and zigzag going. You don't have any decorative stitch or anything now. You're just getting it in place. Go all the way around the blanket. And when you get close, maybe an inch or an inch and a half to where you're going to meet up with the start place, stop and take it out from under the presser foot and just pinch where you're going to want it to meet and lift it and just do a zigzag forward, back, a wide zigzag, like about 4, a length of maybe 1 or 1.5. Cut it off and then overcast it with a little bit wider zigzag forward and back. It doesn't have to be as careful as we join other laces so much of the time. I guarantee you, you can look at this blanket or any of them all day and not see the seam. Once you get that join done, say it's joined now, put it back on the blanket and just do the fine zigzag to get it held in place. And then you're going to press the seam allowance under and the lace extends. And now you're going to put on that pin stitch. And if you want it corded, here we're going to show some examples of feet that have a hole, or a hole is best. This ends up being a hole on this foot 25 of Bernina. But a Pentec foot doesn't work well because we're going around a curve. So hopefully you have a foot with either this number 6 on Bernina has 1 hole in the middle. This one has multiple holes, so we can use it for other things, but in this case we need to use the center groove. But I want to show you this foot. There are a lot of machines that have a version of, it's either a multi-hole foot or it might be called 5, 7, 9 hole foot. And in this case, the center hole is center back, and we use a dental floss threader like you get from a dentist, or it's displayed a pack of them with dental floss, and it makes a great threader to get the cord in there. Okay, so we have the floss threader going down into the center hole. You can put the cord in it ahead if you want to, but it might just slip out. That's okay. But we need it to come out the back below. So it's going down in the front through the center hole and out the back like this. And so when we do the stitch, it's automatically couching the cord, which will add the color and strength and dimension. I wanted to tell you a little trick because this is going to be pin stitched with a large needle, a 100 wing. And so when I'm preparing everything to start this project, I used to say to starch the flannel and press it until it's dry. And that's a lot of work. Now I've figured out, because I do 25 at a time for classes all the time, I just use spray starch, not sizing, and I spray about a couple inches all around the perimeter of the blanket. You're gonna round the corner, remember? And so, and then I just lay it on the ironing board and let it dry overnight. You don't even have to press it, but it needs to have the body of the starch because that big needle will make it pucker otherwise with this soft flannel. Okay, so we got our cord in the presser fit, and we're going to do the pin stitch. And this is a good practice piece to show you what I would do to play around to figure out what I want to do. I do it a little different on every project, every blanket I do. Great, great baby gift. I was trying to decide if I wanted to do pink cord, white cord, pink thread, white thread. Did it really matter? No. In this particular case, it looks great with anything. It didn't really matter. This one, I love the blue cord on the ivory to show like that. This one, I used ecru cord on this ivory. It's mostly adding a little bit of dimension and strength, but not much color difference there. So you can do a little practice piece if you want, but the alignment can change depending on the project and the look you want. So when you swing over, remember it's going forward, back, and then when it swings over just into the lace, just over the fold, that's a good alignment there. And it might be, depending on how far away you are, the width can be very different. Like this one has a lot more width in between than this one. So just try it and see what you like for that particular project. It's good once you determine the look you want, see what you can use for feeding so you don't have to needle watch. It's good to find a guide instead of watching the needle. So in this particular case, I like the fold of the flannel going into the corner of the foot, and that gives me something to watch. Okay? And then when you're done, all the way around, remember, you have your lace a little bulkier going around the curves already, because you have to have some ease there. But when you're done, use duckbill scissors and trim this excess away be careful. Duckbills will help you not cut into your stitching. And then this one's trimmed so you can see what it looks like. This one has a little bit trimmed to show you what we do. And it just makes a beautiful project. The flannel that we mostly use comes from Austria. Your heirloom shop owners will know what it is. And it's 58 inches wide. So with 1 yard, you can get a blanket that's 36 by 45 inches wide. That's what I usually make them. And I tear off from the side a 13-inch width. So that 58 minus the 45 width, 13 by 36 for the burp cloth to match. The baby blanket I've just shown you how to do is probably the most popular project I've ever done. And it's so easy, it makes a great baby present. And I hope you enjoy doing it. Just remember, if you have a baby shower to go to tonight, you better already have that lace pre-shrunk and the starch around the perimeter of the blanket already done if you want to make it for something tonight. But it's a wonderful project.